Paul O'Connell, delighted to be here at Limerick's International Rugby Experience. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, the International Rugby Experience is a project that's been in the making for quite some time now. It's a very exciting project, but it's been challenging because we've been constructing it during COVID, so it's been tough in that regard. But it's a tourist destination in the middle of the city centre. And I suppose it has rugby at its heart, which is a big part of Limerick's story, you know, with Thomond Park, Munster Rugby, the club game, the internationals that have come here, the internationals that have come from here, the international teams that have played here and lost here down through the years. So it tells the story of rugby, not through, I suppose, the history of the game. It tells it through the five values of world rugby, and it tells it through the journey of a player from grassroots to legendary status as well. So Neil McLaughlin designed the building here, and James Alexander and Event Communications now have designed the interior of the building. So we're at the point now where the building is kind of finished. It's kind of safe to show people around the building, and the installation of the actual experience is about to start happening now over the next number of weeks. So it's a day when we get to show some of the people from tourism and from the city around, so that they can, I suppose, understand what the project is about, because, you know, we've been telling people it's not a museum, it's an experience, and people are trying to get their head around that. So it's an exciting day, and it's the start. You know, even though it isn't the start for us, it's a bit of the start of the building beginning to open up a little bit.
And it's quite a journey I'm sure you've been on, especially if you're going through it during COVID as well. And it's 6 stories high, and it's quite immersive as well, so people can come here and get involved in it.
Yeah, it's very interactive. There's everything from, you know, you can engage in the little stories of the game, and there's a skills floor as well where you know, there's a kicking interactive where Johnny Wilkinson will take you through how to kick a rugby ball the right way and the different types of kicks, and you can measure the speed, the height, the spin on your kick, all that kind of stuff. There's the same for footwork. There's something similar for passing. So you know, there's a refereeing interactive where Nigel Owens will introduce it and take you through a few tricky decisions and things like that. So it's, you know, there's something here for young kids. There's something here for avid fans, for future fans, for families. There's something here for everyone. And
it's male and female legends of the game?
Absolutely, yeah, of course it is. And that's been one of the most enjoyable things of the project is you know, we've been picking up the phone to players since 2017. You know, some players we would have been picking up the phone to asking them to be involved. We wouldn't have even known what we were asking them. But when you mention Limerick and you mention rugby and you mention the people that are involved in the project, players haven't hesitated to agree to be involved, and all on a voluntary basis. So that's been brilliant for us.
And JP McManus is involved as well?
Yeah, well, it's his idea. It's his idea from the start. I mean, it's not like someone came up with the idea and asked him to fund it. It's his idea, and obviously he's funding it. You know, this spectacular building in the middle of the city centre that we can all be so proud of. You know, I suppose the initial idea from Neil McLaughlin, the architect, was that it was a cathedral of rugby. You know, we've these spires that kind of stick up throughout the city, and this is another building that kind of raises its head above the parapet, and it's a cathedral to rugby. So yeah, it's been amazing to be involved in something that's been done so well, with such great intentions at its heart, and the city has to be thankful to JP McManus and his family for doing it.
Amazing. We look forward to it opening. I know you said it's probably the new year. No exact date yet, but we're waiting for the new year.
Yeah, the new year probably. Yeah, you know, there'll probably be a few groups in testing the place out before that, but probably the new year.
Amazing. And how's life for you besides all of this? I'm sure it's very hectic. 3 kids as well.
Yeah, it is very hectic. We're just back from Bloemfontein. We were there with Emerging Ireland, so I was there for the last 2.5 weeks with some young Irish rugby players. It was a brilliant experience for us. You know, I suppose Bloemfontein, it was beautiful. We stayed in a great hotel. We could walk straight across the road to the famous Grey College, which has produced some of the, I think as a school has produced more Springboks than any other school in South Africa. Amazing facilities. We 3 great games where we found out a lot about the players, and we were able to, I suppose, sharpen our skills as coaches as well. So it was a great experience. And Sunday week we head into camp then for the autumn internationals. We haven't played South Africa since 2017, I think. A week later we play Fiji, who are a very strong side now, who have an excellent coaching staff, and Australia, who had a tough rugby championship but have some real talent and excellent coaching staff as well. So we head into a big 3 weeks now with Ireland.
And I know the Emerging Ireland tour, it was set up to maybe see some talent that you hadn't always seen at that elite level. Have you got that out of it?
Yeah, well, I suppose we always see them, but we don't know them. You know, we watch them playing intermittently, but we don't get to know. We don't get to know the person, and we don't get to know, I suppose, their struggles in terms of trying to break through and trying to get selected in the provinces. So, from that point of view, for us to I suppose to sharpen our skills, because international rugby, you don't have a pre-season in international rugby to bed in what you're going to do. Very often you come together and you're playing an international match 12 days later. So there's a real skill in trying to get a team ready to play. And this time we had 7 days to get ready to play, and we had to travel to South Africa via Dubai into Johannesburg, stay the night and fly down to Bloemfontein. So there was a real challenge in getting ready as quickly. So you have to have real clarity in what you're doing. So for us as a coaching staff, that was brilliant. And then brilliant to see some of the young players, you know, guys that certainly would have been, I suppose, on our radar, and we were excited for them to come through, but we're probably more excited about some of them now, and that's only good for Irish rugby.
And watching on, there was some impressive players, as you said. Tom Ahern was someone that I thought stood out.
Yeah, I suppose we had 3 games, so some guys were obviously going to get more game time than others, you know. So if you started that first game, you had a good chance, because there was only 4 days between the second game and the third game. You had a good chance of starting the third game. Luckily for us, a lot of the guys stayed injury free, and Tom Ahern was one that did really well. I mean, I think we conceded 18 penalties. I think it was actually more. I think the official number is 18 penalties in the last game, which meant we were defending a load of lineouts. And luckily for us, it's a skill set that he's very good at. He's very good at kick-off receive. He's a very powerful ball carrier. So he had a great tour. But you know, all the second rows, I was a second row myself, so I'm probably watching all the second rows more than anyone else, but all our second rows did really well on the tour. Brian Deeney, Joe McCarthy, Cormac Izachuku, they're a different type of athlete to what we had when I was playing. They're big men, but they're fast, they're powerful, they're athletic, they move really well. So to see that calibre of second row coming through on the tour was brilliant.
And I suppose for the clubs to see their players going away playing, it wasn't the ideal scenario for them. But the likes, I suppose, of Jack Crowley, he probably got more time than he would have if he probably stayed here with Munster.
Yeah, I suppose it's a challenge all the time, isn't it, for playing time for teams, and they the other challenge is they need players at home for training to allow them to prepare for games at the weekend. You know, it's hard. So we understood the challenges, sure, but we felt there was a bit of a trade-off there that would be good, and for us to talk to some of these players, coach some of them, play a game, review it, try and fix something for the following day, and see for the following game, and see how they react to that. There was real value in that for us to see how they handled that. There was real value in that for us to be able to try some things as well. And I hope in time, people appreciate the trade-off. There was a risk in it for sure. Provinces, I think, I would say, weren't happy to lose some players. Were happy for other players to be getting game time, because that's a challenge for everyone. So hopefully the trade-off works out in the end.
Great. And how much are you enjoying your coaching role with Ireland at the moment?
Yeah, I love it. It's busy. It's there's so much to be done. You could be watching footage all night. It's trying to figure out what's really important and focusing on that. And I think the more you coach, the better you get at that. I know that, Andy Simon Easterby in particular would be really good at figuring out what's important and focusing on that. And But for me, it's been great. It's been great to be involved with a mixture of coaches who all look at the game differently, all can collaborate quite well. You know, we can argue. I suppose we trust each other enough to be able to argue and try and get to the right answer rather than it be an argument. So I really enjoy it. Really enjoy it. It gives you a bit of balance, I think, as well. International rugby, in that when you're in it and you have games, you're full on. You're away from home, but when you're home, you do have a bit of time. You know, if you can plan your time properly, you can still bring the kids to school. You can still collect them a few days. You can bring them to a match at the weekend or that kind of thing, and double it up that way. So, so when you have a young family, it's good. It's tough when you're in the club game. I know that. You know, you have a game every week. You have a game to review every week. So the club game can be a bit tougher, but people figure it out. But I must say, I really enjoy the international game.
And was that always the ambition, that when you retired as a player that you'd go on to be a coach?
I don't think it was always the ambition, certainly a good few years before I retired. And then as I was coming to retirement, I was watching the workload of some of the coaches at the time, and I wasn't so sure if it was for me. And I was lucky then that Munster were quite supportive to me in that they gave me an academy role where I wasn't full time. The RFU were very supportive to me in that I coached the under-20s for a period and got to work with some great coaches there. I travelled abroad for a year with Paris, so I got quite a good bit of experience. And I suppose when the international role came along, having known Andy and Simon Easterby and John Fogarty, previously, I knew there would be guys that I could work with and enjoy working with, and it was a fantastic opportunity and one which I'm really enjoying.
And I don't know if you've seen it yet, the documentary with Brian O'Driscoll, After the Roar. It's just really impressive to see, I suppose, insight into what it's like to retire from an elite sport, and I suppose the struggles and the challenges with that. For you, how was it when you retired? Yeah,
it's hard. It's definitely hard, and I think one of those things, you know, I know Tommy Bowe did a documentary as well before, and Brian's documentary is excellent. And I think one of the things it does for players that are retiring, it makes them realise this is going to be hard, you know. I think sometimes you might look at social media and think a lot of guys have it sorted, but very few have. I think every single player struggles when he finishes because it's such a big change. It's such a big change in lifestyle. And it's such a big change in terms of figuring out what you're going to do next and what you're going to be passionate about and where you're going to put your time. So I think that's the first step, you know, if you can actually admit this is going to be hard. And if you're happy that you can see that other people find it hard as well, because I certainly did, and I still continue to find it hard. You know, I still miss playing terribly. But I think the more, like anything with mental health, the more you see people having the same struggles as you might have, and the more you see people talking openly about it, the more other people are encouraged to talk openly about it and get help. So I think it's a brilliant documentary, and I think it's good for future players who are retiring.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really normalised that, you know, that is absolutely normal. Even if you're at the highest point in your life and playing at elite level, it's normal to feel like that.
Yeah, and some people feel that, you know, some players finish with better opportunities than others, but the struggle doesn't really have anything to do with that. I think, you know, you gotta figure out what you're going to do in your head. You got to figure out that it'll be tough for a few years while you're figuring out. You got to realize you don't have to have all the answers as well. But it's well worth considering and discussing it and getting a bit of help before you do make the decision to retire, or as is very often the case now, that the decision to retire is forced upon you.
Yes, absolutely. And Munster at the moment, they've lost 3 out of the 4 games so far this season. Not the ideal start, and new coaching team in there as well. So it's not been easy for them.
No, it's not been easy for them. But I'd coffee with one of the Blue Bulls fitness coaches there in Limerick at the moment, and I worked with one of them, Steph Francais. I'd coffee with one of them yesterday. They lost I think 6 out of their first 7 last year and ended up in the final. You know, and they learned lessons. They really struggled at the start of the year against the Irish teams. They realised they had to change what they were doing, and they were very adaptable. So Munster have made big changes to their coaching staff. They've made big changes to how they want to do things, and they just need to remain calm and hang in there, and it come right. They've very, very good people involved in the coaching setup. I know that Andy, Simon, and Cathy and John Fogarty struggled when they first took over from Joe Schmidt after the World Cup, and I think if you know what you stand for and you've clarity in terms of how you want to play, it takes time to bed in, but if you do have that clarity and know what you stand for, it'll come right in the end, and be confident that will happen with Munster as well.
Yes, as you said, big game against Bulls this weekend, so they're back in Thomond Park, first time in nearly 6 months.
Yeah, it's exciting for them, exciting for the coaching staff as well, the likes of Mike Prendergast, who's been away for so long, the likes of Dennis Leamy, who's been retired and been away coaching as well. So I'd say a lot of them are very excited for the game at the weekend, and sometimes you just need a few little things to go your way, get a result, and a few of the things that you're trying to make part of your game, a few of those things to work so that people can go, yeah, okay, this works, let's stick with it. So hopefully that happens for them at the weekend.
And lastly then, just to chat about Johnny Sexton. He's still doing it for Leinster, still doing it for Ireland. What is it about Johnny Sexton?
I think all the players, the more you play the game, the more you see the pictures, and you become instinctive in what the right decisions to make are. So he's obviously played at a high level for a long time, but he's trained at a massively high level as well for a long time. So I think he sees the pictures very quickly and is able to make decisions based on his experience, and that's the challenge really for every out half. They touch the ball second most in the team after the number 9. They're the guys that have to make the decisions, and the more times they've been put in that position to make decisions, and they've made them wrong, and they've reviewed it and figured out why it was wrong, the better chance they have of it being instinctive. And I think that's where he is at the moment. The way Leinster play and the way we play suits him. Mm-hmm. He's very comfortable with it, he understands it, he's figured it out, and because of that, he looks very calm when he plays, very in control when he plays, and it's a joy to watch. It's just, it's great seeing him competing as well. I mean, that's what the funny thing about him is winning doesn't take the edge off. I think it makes it worse, which is a great thing for any team he plays on.
Absolutely, Paul. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.